Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're looking at the ATI FireGL 8800 and its suitability for retro gaming. Now this is a workstation card. It's not meant for gaming. The focus is on image quality, stable drivers, and improved performance in programs such as AutoCAD, 3D Studio Max or SolidWorks. The chip used is the same as on the Radeon 8500 and the cards are very similar. However, I found it much easier and cheaper to buy the FireGL version. I got 3 of them from eBay, only $15 each. The cards arrived from the US in excellent condition. They were extremely well packed and not a speck of dust on them. They really look like brand new. I immediately put them onto my test bench and let's find out what these cards can do. As you know, my channel is mostly about gaming and I'm not that much into workstation stuff. However, I do like to find a bargain, and the reason why I look into these workstation cards and use them for gaming is because they are a lot cheaper. No one buys old workstation cards, there's just no point for them, and for some reason they are cheaper than the gaming cards. I did a video previously where I tested the Nvidia Quadro 2 Pro, and it's basically the same specs as the GeForce 2 Ti, and that card was very good. It's sometimes a tiny bit slower, sometimes a tiny bit faster, but it overclocked really well. It had better cooling with coolers for the memory as well, a DVI output, and arguably it looks also nicer. So let's take a look at the cards. First up is the Radeon 8500. I've got the all-in-wonder version. It comes with 128 megabytes of RAM. We've got DVI, VGA, as well as TV out and TV inputs, and there's also a TV tuner. The FireGL has less outputs. It only has DVI and VGA, so there's no TV output. It also doesn't have any TV inputs or TV tuner options. The test system we're using today, all the details are below in the description. There's also a link to a video build of that machine. It's a fast Athlon 64 4000 Plus with an HEP slot, and we're using a solid state drive for quick loading times. We also got 2 gigs of RAM, so basically everything that the machine is nice and fast, and those video cards can really show what they can do. Let's have a look at the drivers I used on the AMD website. Choose desktop graphics, then select the Radeon 8000 series, the Radeon 8500. We're choosing Windows XP, and then click on the display results button, and after a short loading time, these are the latest drivers that are used for the Radeon 8500. They are from November of 2006 and the Catalyst version 6.11. For the FireGL card, we're selecting this option here. Then we go with the FireGL series, select the 8000 series down here, and once again we're going with Windows XP. Now there's a lot to talk about the drivers, and this video has a lot of twists and turns, so do watch the whole thing and especially the conclusion. So this is the driver we're gonna try, the FireGL 8800 version from 2005. So and here's the version number 8083.1. Okay, so here we have GPU set. This is with the Radeon 8500. We can see the memory, 128 megs of DDR memory with a 128-bit memory interface. The card runs at AGP4X, and here are the clocks: 275 megahertz for the core and 275 megahertz for the memory. And here we've got the driver, Catalyst version 6.11. So let's have a look at the driver options. The Radeon 8500 is focused on gaming. You just have to click on 3D to set all the 3D stuff. For example, here we can configure anti-aliasing from 2x to 6x and also toggle between performance and quality. We can also play around with the anisotropic texture filtering from 2x to 16x. We can play around with some quality settings, but I'll leave these on quality. And for benchmarking, you wanna move that slider to always off. These are the default settings, and usually I go into the driver and the only thing I change, I leave everything at default, and the only thing I change is move this slider here to disable VSync. Okay, so this is the GPU set screen with the FireGL 8800. And I've installed the latest driver from the ATI website. You can see the version number here. So the specifications are pretty much identical to the Radeon 8500. The only differences we have here is the memory speed. So the clock speed is once again 275 megahertz, but the memory runs basically at 300 megahertz. It's got faster memory, 3.3 nanosecond chips rather than 3.6 on the Radeon. Let's have a quick look at the driver options. So we need to go on settings and then advanced, and we can see all the tabs. So here we have the standard color options. Under options here, we've got a few things we can toggle. Nothing to do with gaming. If we press on details, we get some more information about the BIOS version. Here are the interesting vendor ID numbers, which might come in handy when you're trying to modify one of the drivers to get it to work on this card. Under configuration, there's some interesting stuff. Here we can choose some profiles. There is a profile for gaming, Opengl games, but I found that made a little difference. You can modify these profiles. You can change those buttons here. There is a that's basically a VSync button. However, this only seems to work in Opengl games. In Dark 3D, I had to use a third-party software, which we're going to have a look at later. And under advanced settings, we can force anti-aliasing up to 6x, and it tells you what the maximum supported resolution is. In order to access more driver options, I like to use PowerStrip. So this is a free download. I actually put all the downloads on my website if you ever look for it. So because it's free, we just have to wait for a countdown here, and then we get an icon down below. We can go profile, performance profiles. I'm just going to reset it to defaults first, and then we run it again and configure. We can see the clock speed. So here you can do basic overclocking, and here are all the driver options. So we can enable, disable VSync for Opengl, stuff to do with the Z buffer. But what is interesting is this one here. So if you want to have anti-aliasing under Opengl, you tick this box, and then you have some options here where you can force the anti-aliasing mode. Same goes for anisotropic filtering. Tick the box, and you can choose some options here. This actually seems to be higher than what you get on the Radeon, I believe. For direct 3D, if you're benchmarking, you definitely need to tick this one, disable vertical synchronization. And once again, you can force anti-aliasing. We can go up to 4x. So interestingly, this is lower what you get here compared to what you get through the actual driver. And there should also be a setting for anisotropic filtering here. We can go up to 16x. So let's have a look at the benchmark results. The blue bar is the Radeon 8500 with the latest ATI drivers, and the orange bar is the FireGL card, also with the latest ATI drivers. In 3D Mark 2000 Max, look, there's no difference. They perform basically identical. Moving on to 3D Mark 2001 SE, we can see that the FireGL is a little bit in front, and that is because it's clocked slightly higher on the memory. So that's what we expected to see. In Expendable, we can see something interesting. First, at the lower resolution, the FireGL is a little bit faster, but then it loses performance a little bit more than the Radeon card, but there's not much between them. If you look at the numbers down here, they're close enough to not really worry too much about it. In Draken, we can see a similar trend at 1024 by 768. The FireGL is a little bit in front, and then we kind of get the same performance for the higher resolutions. In Evolver, we can see also both cards neck and neck, 112 compared to 111, 76 compared to 75, and 48 at the higher resolution. Now this is where things get interesting in Quake 3. The FireGL 8800 is a lot slower, 262 versus 160, 179 versus 106, so it's losing a lot of performance. And now things are getting much worse. In Serious Sam, Opengl is not supported. For some reason under Quake 3, Opengl still kind of seems to work, but it's kind of like a software mode, whereas in Serious Sam it just refuses to use it. And the same goes for MDK2, and we're seeing the same thing in Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And here we are in Serious Sam. We can see it defaulted to dark 3D and it picks up the video card. However, if we switch it to OpenGL, it just says GDI generic, and if we try to apply it, it actually will fail. It'll try to set the resolution, the mode, but it'll fail and switch back to direct 3D. So here we are in the MDK2 launcher, and when we press get info, we can see that the generic Microsoft driver seems to be used for OpenGL. So unfortunately there's no hardware acceleration or no driver support for OpenGL. So looking at the performance under Direct 3D, there's very little difference. However, OpenGL has given me quite a few issues. Quake 3 does work, however the other games, they simply don't detect the card as being OpenGL capable. So the driver wasn't working out for me. So I had a look at the video card, and it turns out this card comes from a HP machine. It must have been a workstation similar to this one, the workstation XW4000, and if we scroll down, so that came with a Pentium 4 CPU, and if we look at the video card options down here, we can see that one of the options was indeed the FireGL 8800. All we need to do is go to the HP software support page, type in the model number of the XW4000 workstation. We have Windows and Windows XP, and let's have a look what drivers we can find. So under driver graphics for AMD, we can find these drivers, so we're gonna use those next. And also I found a BIOS update here for the FireGL, which updates the BIOS to version 1.15 from December of 2002. Okay, let's check out the latest driver from HP as well as updating the BIOS. So this is the BIOS update version 1.15, and is there a year? Yep, end of 2002. And what this will do, it will create a boot floppy. So I've inserted it into my floppy drive, and yep, it will make a boot floppy. You just have to then boot from that floppy drive, and it will flash the BIOS. And we're gonna have a look at that now. Okay, here we go. So it just booted from the floppy drive. Let's press a key to continue, and off it goes, starting to flash the BIOS. So this is the latest driver from the HP website. One thing that stands out is the resolution is limited to maximum of 1600 by 1200. So that's less what we're getting with the latest drivers from ATI. Let's have a look at the options. We have the usual color options, information tab, and under configuration, once again, we can configure certain profiles. We can also toggle VSync, but it's lacking the anti-aliasing slider, for example, that the latest driver from the ATI website had. So here we are in Power Strip, and I've forced 4x anti-aliasing for OpenGL games. And this is what 4x anti-aliasing looks like with the latest HP driver. Yeah, it's broken. It basically just increases the resolution by 2 times likely. And yeah, it's not usable at all. So huge driver bug with the latest HP drivers. So let's have a look how the FireGL compares with the latest HP driver against the Radeon 8500 with the latest ATI driver. A little bit slower compared to using the latest ATI driver, but not much. I mean, we're talking 14,400 versus 15,000, so it's not much of a difference. We can see the same thing under 3D Mark 2001, a couple 100 points of difference. In expendable, so the orange graph is the FireGL. Once again, it starts higher off at 1024 by 768, but then drops performance a little bit quicker compared to the Radeon card as we increase the resolution. In Dragon, we can see a similar trend, starts off faster at the lower resolution and then loses performance a little bit quicker, but it still manages to stay ahead of the Radeon at most resolutions. In Evolver, unfortunately, we're running into some graphic glitches, so I didn't include the results, although the benchmarks completed. And here we are in the game, so you can see, yeah, the textures seem to warp around or wobble around, so definitely a driver bug, because all the other drivers seem to work fine with this game. Looking at OpenGL performance, well, at least, so the good news is that these drivers from HP are fully OpenGL compatible. However, performance is behind of the ATI 500 Radeon. In Serious Sam, now the game actually works, which is fantastic, but huge performance delta, 132 versus 75, 91 versus 51, and 43 compared to 29. So we're losing quite a bit of performance. In MDK2, the performance drop is not that massive, 225 versus 203, 153 versus 135, and 101 versus 89. Let's have a look at Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Also not too bad. Yes, we're losing a bit of performance, but I would still say this is fairly decent. And yeah, it's a few FPS, but it's not the end of the world. So looking at the performance of the latest HP driver, in Direct 3D we're a little bit behind what the Radeon 8500 can do, but not by much. The good news also is that OpenGL support is fully working. However, we did run into performance issues, so OpenGL games are not nearly as fast as on the Radeon 8500, and we also had graphics issues with the game Evolver. Now there's another trick or angle that we can apply. Let's say you want to turn the FireGL 8800 in a pure Direct 3D video card, and that's not a bad option if you don't care about OpenGL support. Yeah, you can basically install the latest Catalyst driver. So this is the same driver that are used for the Radeon 8500. It will fail to install, but we're just going to install it for the time being because it unpacks the files to the hard drive. There you go. So this is the error. So we just press OK and exit the installer. And then we go to the C drive. It's under ATI support. It unpacked all the drivers. And in order to install that, we go into the device manager. So under hardware, device manager, there's our video card. We just double click on that, go reinstall driver. We say no for this option, or we choose this option here. That one here, don't search. I will choose the driver to install. Go next, and then here you click on have disk. And then we're just gonna browse to that folder. I must have been here before. Yep, so under support, go in here, driver, and we've got two files. One is for Windows 2000. So in order to find that out, let's go back here into driver. In file, we've got two files. So this one here, let's open the one that starts with C2. Open it up and it says Windows 2000. So that's not the one we want. We want the other one here with CX. It says Windows XP. So the one that starts with CX. So we go back here, double click CX and go OK. And we can choose our video cards now. So we're going to go with the Radeon 8500 entry. Go next. It's gonna whinge that the card doesn't match, but that's fine. We're just gonna install it anyway. And once that's done, we're gonna do a restart and the card should be working. So here we are. We've got the latest Catalyst driver installed. It now mentions it's an 8500 here, and our resolutions are back, so we have access to all the resolutions. However, if we look at the driver options, there's not much going on, but I'll show you how to fix that. So we go back to our C drive into ATI and then support into the extracted driver and ACE. This is the control panel. So we just run the setup file. It's the ATI Catalyst control center setup. So this will give us access to all the driver options. So it just took a restart. Let's right click and open the Catalyst control center, and we should get a dialog where it asks us to choose between basic and advanced setup. We're gonna go with the advanced one, and then we should have all the options that you have with the normal Radeon 8500. So if I click on 3D, I've got all my standard options for anti-aliasing, texture filtering, quality settings, and also for VSync. However, the driver picks up that this is a workstation card, because if you look under here, there's a workstation tab which has the same application profiles that we saw when we installed the proper workstation drivers. Let's have a quick look if anti-aliasing works. So this is without anti-aliasing. We're just going to run 3D Mark and take a note of the number. So we're getting just over 100 FPS at the start. Okay, so I'm going to go back here into 3D and we're gonna turn on anti-aliasing. We're going to set it to 4x, press apply, and then we're going to run the 3D Mark benchmark again. I'm just going to cross it off. Maybe we have to restart it just to be sure, because with the workstation driver we had issues with anti-aliasing even under Direct3D. I haven't shown it in the video, but I've tested it myself. So let's have a look. 1024 by 768. The image is now not stretched and we're getting lower FPS around 3040, so anti-aliasing is definitely working. So the whole point of this is that basically what you can do by manually installing the latest Catalyst drivers is turn this into a proper Radeon ATI 500. However, OpenGL support is still working, and we can see that if we click on Information Center, it says here OpenGL version not available. So unfortunately, this is the best I could do. This will turn it into a proper Direct3D compatible Radeon ATI 500 with slightly boosted performance because it's got the faster memory. However, no OpenGL. I also had a look at overclocking. When I checked out the Quadro 2 Pro, this card was an overclocking beast. Usually they use better binned GPU chips, better silicon for the workstation cards, but yeah, because they cost more money and you want to give the best GPUs to your customers. So here with the overclocking, the core, yeah, they're kind of all maxed out at the same limit. I used ATI tools. It has some automatic overclocking, and I basically just turn on the capture card, and when it hit into the first error I deducted 5 megahertz, and that was my maximum core clock. So there's not much difference, and interestingly enough, the Radeon actually overclocks the most on the core, so much for binning and giving the better GPUs to the workstation customers. With the memory, we can clearly see that the RAM on the FireGL cards overclocks higher. The memory is faster, 3.3 nanoseconds for the FireGL cards and 3.6 nanoseconds for the Radeon. Now benchmarking 3D Mark 2001 SE, we can see there's not much difference, and actually the Radeon clocks in with the fastest result, likely because the core overclocks the most. So the higher memory speed actually doesn't help the FireGL cards. It seems to come down to the higher clock speed of the core. I actually spent quite a few afternoons trying to get a better driver to work with the FireGL cards. I looked at all the forums, and it was a popular mod to turn the Radeon ATI 500 into the FireGL cards. However, I didn't find the reverse of trying to mod the workstation card into the Radeon, which isn't a surprise because when the card came out, the FireGL, it cost around $900, and then later as the prices came down, around $500 or so. So it was definitely out of reach, and no one would buy a workstation card for gaming. So I kept running into OpenGL issues. I tried a few Catalyst driver versions, and also the workstation driver has some options for OpenGL profiles. There's, for example, an option for gaming, but that didn't work. I also tried modified drivers like the Omega drivers or the DNA drivers, and I also looked at modifying the INF file with the PCI ID to include the FireGL card, but none of these tricks would work. It just wouldn't happen. As I mentioned before, the FireGL also doesn't have a TV out. Now that's not a big deal, but it's still worth noting that you're getting less compared to the Radeon ATI 500. So looking at all of this, I expected a lot more. I had really good experiences with the NVIDIA Quadro cards. You can use the same driver that you use for the GeForce. You can use RiverTuner to fake or change the PCI device ID. So you can basically turn this into a proper GeForce with all the driver options. But even if you stick with the Quadro drivers, the performance is very similar to those that you see with a GeForce card. Now, if anyone out there knows how to modify ATI drivers, please give me a hand. If you can download the latest Catalyst drivers and modify it so they work on a FireGL 8800, that would be really awesome, and I will definitely revisit the project, because that would mean that a lot of us could get the FireGL cards for a lower price and basically have a Radeon ATI 500. So whatever driver you're using, it seems to be you always have to make a compromise. The latest ATI drivers from the website, Direct 3D Performance is fantastic. However, in Opengl, it's not supported. Same thing goes for the workstation driver. Now, performance in Direct 3D is a little bit less, but that's fine. However, performance in Opengl is quite a bit reduced, and we also had some compatibility issues with Evolver. Another issue is that with the workstation drivers, you don't get access to the ATI control panel. So you have to use a third-party program such as PowerStrip in order to access the driver settings. You're also losing the TV out, and anti-aliasing doesn't seem to work with the latest drivers from HP. So this was an interesting experience, and I will definitely get a few more FireGL cards and see if I run into similar issues with those. But for the time being, and looking at the results in this video, I really can't recommend them. Yes, they are cheaper than the Radeon 8500, but I think you're better off spending a bit more money and getting a proper 8500. However, hope dies last, so if someone out there can modify the Catalyst drivers to work with the FireGL 8800, that might make it a real bargain. But there's no guarantee, and this hobby is quite niche, so I wouldn't get my hopes up. So there you have it, guys. The ATI FireGL 8800 could have been a really cheap alternative to the Radeon 8500. However, as often the case with ATI cards, the drivers turned out to be a big letdown. So you're better off looking for a proper Radeon 8500, even if that means having to spend more. On the flip side, this also means that you shouldn't be paying a premium for these FireGL cards. I would say $10 to $20 is a fair price, considering the limitations when it comes to gaming. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I've put a few questions down below in the comment sections for you to discuss. And as always, share the video, hit the like or the dislike button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, and I shall see you soon with another video.